Hi everybody, it's great to be back here again. It's Friday, the Shabbat Hagadol, the great Shabbat. Before Passover, we are all preparing ourselves. Wow, listen to those birds. Isn't that amazing? They came here to sing with us. Wow, that is wild. I can't get a word in, but this is exact. You know something? This is so connected to this week's portion. I got to make sure nothing falls on my head over there from above. But why is it so connected to this week's portion? Because it's all about cleansing oneself from the leprosy. The process of purification of leprosy, and it involves birds. And the reason birds, because birds carry the voice. When a person talks evil, it somehow gets all over the place. And the birds represent that. And here the birds chirping to us and saying, no, you shouldn't speak Lashon Hara, you shouldn't speak evil tongue. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting sign. As we opened up, bang, there the birds are coming. But anyway, the purification process of a mitzorah is very similar to when someone has to purify themselves from a dead person. The same materials are used. First of all, it has to be a spring, the azov, the hyssop. We're familiar with the erez, the high, tall tree of an erez tree, which is a very tall tree. And the whole, getting back to the concept of mitzorah, it's very similar to a dead person, because when a life is all about someone mingling with society and being involved, and when people talk Lashon Hara, they're arrogant, they're like birds, they fly up in the sky with wings on and show their arrogance, and therefore they have to go out of the camp until they purify themselves. And instead of acting like this big tree, a tall tree of an erez with arrogance, they got to humble themselves like a little bush, like the hyssop bush. It also connects us with the Passover holiday, that the hyssop was used, the azov, to sprinkle the blood on the doorposts and on the mezuzot and the mashkof. You know, the different surrounding doorposts and the entrance to the door. But anyway, that's what this week's Pasha opens up with, the purification process. And then it talks about, again, a lot about uncleanliness, about a menstruous woman, a zav, a zava. These are different things which I don't want to get into now. This week's lesson, I want to focus on really on something else that will connect, of course, to this topic of mitzorah. Somehow we'll bring it in. And that is the Shabbat Hagadol, the great Shabbat. And we've spoken about this in the years past. But I want to focus on the Haftarah. We know it's our custom to read every week a Haftarah, part of the prophets, relating to each different weekly portion. And since this week is the Shabbat before Passover, we read about in the prophet of Malachi. And here Malachi says something very powerful. He brings down the Navi Malachi, or maybe Malachi in English. If you look in Malachi chapter 3, and just read a couple of verses here, and that should really set things up. If we look in chapter 3, verse number 8, the prophet says, "Hayikaba Adam Elohim ki atem kovim oti." What does it mean, Hayikaba Adam Elohim? Could a person, will you rob me? God is saying to a person, will you rob me? Ki atem kovim oti, because you're robbing me. V'amaltem bameh kavanuch, and you asked, how am I robbing you, God? What am I doing to you? How am I concerned about them robbing you? Hamaseh v'tumah. Because God is saying to Israel, do you know how you're robbing me? When you don't give your tithes, and we don't give your trumah, which means the presents that you have to give, the tithes and the trumah to the Kohanim. So you're robbing me, because these things are, of course, were meant to go for the Levites and the priests and the temple service. And God is saying, when you're not giving those tithes, you're robbing me. And then God goes on to say, "B'meira atem ne'erim v'oti atem kovim hagoy kulo." And God says that this will bring a curse upon you. If you do not give your tithes, you will be cursed, God is saying. And then the next verse is something absolutely amazing. He goes on to say, "Haviyu et kol ha'maser el beit ha'otzar." And God is saying, bring all your tithes to the treasury. The beit ha'otzar is really the storage house, right? "V'teref v'veiti u'b'chanuni nam bezot." And then there will be provisions in my house. And then God goes on to say, "U'b'chanuni gam bezot," you will try me with this. God is saying, try me with this, with the tithes. Amar Hashem Tzvakot, "Im lo eftach lachem et arubot hashamayim," if I will not open up the heavens the windows in the heaven. V'harikoti lachem bracha ad belidai. And I will bring it down upon you a blessing ad belidai. Ad belidai is with an endless blessing. In other words, God is saying, if you will rob me by not giving your tithes, then you will be cursed. But if you, and God is saying, please test me with this. If you give your tithes, I will open up the bounties of heaven without an end. You will see tremendous, tremendous bounty. And unfortunately, the Talmud talks about in our sages that at times we have drought and we lack rainwater in the land. It's a sign that we are not opening our hearts and doing love and kindness. This is what we're in this world for. And here, this is what we read in the great Shabbat before Passover. And why do we read this before Passover? One of the great rabbis, Rav Yaakov Emden, he compared this and he's saying that we know during the Passover time, we are being judged by grain, by our wheat. It's a time of judgment. In other words, how much are we going to make our living for the coming year? We're judged here on Passover. How much food are we going to have? How much bounty are we going to have? And therefore, on the great Shabbat before Passover, God is saying, test me with this. I want to see you giving your tithes. I want to see you helping the poor. And if you give your tithes and if you help people, then you will be judged properly over the wheat and you will see the heavens open up with tremendous, tremendous bounty. But if God forbid you do not, then you will be cursed. This lesson is so important for us as we approach Passover, the holiday of redemption. This is what redemption is all about. Not remaining like the leper outside the camp. We have to be within the camp and open our eyes and see our fellow man and woman and children and see how people need your assistance and they need your help. And if we are blessed by God to have bounty and to enjoy our holiday so specially, people go and they travel to hotels and they do this and they do that. They have a wonderful time. But they forget about the person who doesn't have much. He can't go away. He doesn't have money to get gas in his car. He doesn't have a car. Or others who just barely get the food on the table to feed their little children every week. And God is saying, if you're going to sit down on the Seder night with your family and sit there with all your wonderful bounty and your 10-course meal with all the wonderful things you have, and not think about your fellow brother and sister that are in need, then it's worth nothing. It's worth nothing what you're doing. And therefore we read in this week's portion, this week's prophet teaches us that the most important thing before we begin our Passover holiday is to get out of our 4 cubits of our own. 4 cubits, like 2 meters of your own 2 meters, your own ego, and think about your fellow human being and think about what they need and how we can be assistance and help to them. And this, God is saying, I'm willing to be tested. If you give, there's no doubt the bounty will come upon you and you'll be blessed 1,000-fold. And therefore, as a simple Jew living here in the land of Israel, I turn to all my wonderful friends. And I, at the time, first of all, say thank you for all of you who have been standing with Itamar over the years and thinking and not keeping your finances and your bounty for yourselves, but opening up your pockets and your hearts and helping your fellow human beings and being part of a beautiful blessing. And that will bring bounty upon all of you. So I want to thank you, those special people that have been involved in helping and standing behind Itamar, because you are those special people that bring a blessing upon the world because you open up your hearts. And I have a few very special thank yous to make. And God willing, we will see tremendous blessings that will come out of these wonderful, great deeds. And I want to thank a special friend, Alan Hirsch. He probably is not going to see this. I can say his name here. Who relentlessly, every year before Passover, runs around the world trying to raise money to help families in need. And here, in his merit in Israel, there are literally about close to 2,000 families being helped throughout the entire country. In Judea and Samaria, his focus is on Judea and Samaria, the heartland of Israel, and helping families. And his whole thing is making sure before he sits down and has his Seder night, he wants to be involved in helping others, following the words of the prophet to the last letter of them. So I want to give a special thanks to Alan Hirsch and all. I want to add to that many thank yous to all our wonderful friends that have particularly been standing with Itama and helping us here on the mountain, helping us survive in these hard times and build the land. And we will no doubt enjoy our holiday and sitting down knowing that we were involved in helping other people. Shabbat Shalom, B'sorot Tovot, Yeshurot V'Nechamot.